Someone left a comment recently about a way to make Preytons a little bit more viable through use of a specific spell, and Ryder Rohan conveniently sent me a replay featuring just such that. I actually haven't watched this yet, but let's see how he can do. He's got a Lore of Beasts, Great Bray Shaman. And the spell in question is absolutely Pann's Impenetrable Pelt, which gives melee, defense, physical resistance, and extra speed. Mainly the defensive stats is what we're looking for here on something like the Preyton, which has terrible melee defense and already has a bit of physical resistance that you could stack on top of it. In certain matchups where you can avoid magic damage, that is going to be potentially decent. We've also got an Incarnate of Elemental Beasts, because why not? Beastmen have an insane variety of single entity monsters now, so why not throw this one in the mix here? We've got some Centaurs already moving in for a charge, a unit of Razorgore chariots, the slightly more elite chariots, some Ungor herd, Sons of Goros, Regiment of Renowned Centaurs, some more Centaurs and Hounds out on the flank. Now, you can already see the Chimera here, Blood Shriek, tangling with the Preyton up in the sky. I believe, is there another Chimera on the field? I don't see it right now, but let's see. We've also got some Marauders getting charged immediately, Worshippers of the Crow included there, but just some basic Marauder infantry in the front line. Skinwolves a little bit far behind to be able to support quickly against this Centaur charge, but they are going to get on the move. Sail the Faithless leading the way. Some Kurgan Horsemen dual weapons, looking for some anti-infantry for just high overall damage against Beastmen. And yeah, that's basically it, so let's get things rolling. As the Blood Shriek Chimera going to take off. Doesn't want to take the 2v1 versus the Preytons, but let's see. Pann's Pelt boosting their speed up to 113 in the sky, so they are able to catch the Blood Shriek Chimera, and right now they're not getting much benefit from the defensive stats, but at least the speed should, in theory, allow them to do a few attack animations there, although pursuit behavior's notoriously difficult in this game often, but yeah, with the Skinwolves a little bit far back, they're going to be slow to respond to the Centaur and Chariot pressure. Here comes the Incarnate of Elemental Beasts. Going to move on in, start to do some nice anti-infantry damage. That big constant Flock of Doom, like Mortis effect as well, will do a nice job of dealing some damage, but Sail going to punch back. He does a little Nightmaw, no, Numbral Pendulum, in fact. It's going to do some pretty good damage. Wasn't totally ideally placed, but still going to do some pretty good leadership damage. Skinwolves now in a nice grind fight, exactly where they want to be against some large targets. But if we take a look over here, yeah, I mean, the Blood Shriek Chimeras 2v1 versus a couple of Preytons. Probably not going to go well even without the buffs, but let's see what they can continue to do in the late game or even mid-game. Yeah, Razorgore Chariots and the Centaurs being straight up broken here by the blob of Skinwolves and Kurgan Horsemen and everything else, so quite scary. Skinwolves over here also tangling with the Sons of Goros. Their magic damage on the nice dappled Centaurs will do quite a bit of extra, right? The armor-piercing damage helps against the slightly armored Skinwolves, and the, yeah, magic damage, of course, is also quite nice to have, but still probably not the most cost-efficient trade, as they're just kind of grinding against a regenerating big monster, or group of big monsters. Little, what is that? Uramon's Thunderbolt there, new VFX, gonna strike the Ungor herd, do some damage, and overall things are looking a little bit rough for the Beastmen, but we're gonna see a big overcast Pann's Pelt, maybe? Yeah, okay, so it does actually hit these couple of units, like the Centaurs and the Incarnate Elemental Beasts that's fighting. Also doesn't have great melee defense, so nice to get some extra defense there. Didn't actually hit either of the Preytons, but that's fine. Little Nightmaw action there. Gonna carve through some more, mostly just doing friendly fire damage, honestly, but still getting some Chaos Warhounds and whatnot. Another Penumbral Pendulum as well. And yeah, the Bray Shaman so far has been able to keep these units all alive. Howl of the Great Beast kicks off. That's going to do some leadership damage here and lead to a few of these units tear routing. But let's see. Right now, the single entities all kind of blobbed up together are doing a pretty decent job, but another Pann's Pelt being cast here. Is it overcast? At least it looked like he was casting something there. Yeah, I don't see exactly which unit it's active on, so that's fine. Blood Shriek Chimera is going to heal up a bit and then come back to the fight here. Bray Shaman also eats some Shalkane's teeth from Sail. But they've been able to do a nice job here with the Sons of Goros and Preyton's and the Warhounds rather supporting the Preyton. Another big Pann's Pelt upgrade. It actually hits everything in the blob this time. Speed and melee defense and physical resistance all around. Chimera will charge in. Of course, Chimera has magic damage, so we'll be able to bypass the physical resistance portion of that at least. But Incarnate of Beasts responds. Both the Preytons in here as well. And a 3v1 is definitely not something that the Chimera wants to be taking. Yeah, a lot of damage coming through. But at the same time, the Preyton also eating quite a bit of damage there as well. But it looks like, if we see the health bars, looks like the Beastmen single entities were able to win. Not too surprising, but yeah. It's gonna go ahead and pursue up into the air, try and rout the Chimera off. With the Chimera down, Sail's kind of running around trying to rally whatever forces he can, but pretty thin across the field. We do have 3 Skinwolves over here who are fully regenerated, so their unit won't gain any more HP than what they have already. But Blood Shriek gets up into the air, 1v1 versus this Preyton. Actually is almost able to take him out, but the other Preyton gets up in the sky, and I'd imagine that's going to be a loss. I don't know, the Chimera is actually getting some good attack rolls right now, but chooses to maneuver away. I'm going to see some more Nightmaw, Penumbral Pendulum, hard to tell which. There we go. Well, at least before it gets cast, obviously. But yeah, nice Pendulum here, hits those Centaurs and Ungor herds. Chimera looking to fly away, try and land and heal, and then get back in the fight. But the question is it going to have time to try and execute that? Oh, yeah. Sail just gets absolutely bashed here, and that's going to lead to army losses. So, yeah, I mean, I like the pick of Pann's Pelt in general, just because, you know, Beastman's defensive stats tend not to be amazing. How much did it actually end up helping here? Hard to say. A lot of the bulk of the work was done by the Incarnate Elemental of Beasts, but at the same time, the Preytons had some respectable value. One of them kind of gets crushed a little bit, but they didn't quite fully pay for themselves. That one of the issues with the Preyton is its expensive cost, but as a piece in a build like this, definitely can be fairly solid overall. Centaurs also were able to charge in, get some pretty good damage done in certain instances. 600 value on Hounds is always nice as well. And yeah, I mean, not the most meta Norscan build by any means, but it's got some Skinwolves, it's got a Chimera, definitely some strong elements here. Skinwolves themselves get some really nice value fighting those Centaurs in melee. But the dual hand weapon Kurgans, like, I kind of get it, but on the other hand, I think it'd be better off just to have Marauder Horseman Javelins here, to have some kind of skirmish element, be able to apply a little bit of range damage. Obviously, the physical resistance will end up mattering in that instance. But definitely an interesting sort of thought experiment, interesting practical application as well. And yeah, I mean, the Preyton, Slaanesh doesn't have access to any defensive buffs, right? So if we think here, well, I think there might be like 1 or 2, but certainly not as much access. Arguably, you don't have Lore of Beasts at the very least. So if we think through for the Beastmen, yeah, of course, Lore of Beasts often is thought of just for like Flock of Doom or other, you know, basically just Flock of Doom. But you do have Wiston's Wild Form, which armor, it's not nearly as useful as both physical resistance and melee defense. Of course, there will be some matchups where this is not particularly useful, but 7 Winds of Magic for the base one, and if you want an AoE, it's up to 13 Winds of Magic, so not the cheapest buff in the world. Has only a 31-second duration, which I do feel, in general, one way to boost a lot of the buffs and debuffs. Spells in the game, it would be nice for Creative Assembly to maybe increase their duration, just kind of across the board. But, that being said, so yeah, this guy here, with just, was he on the Tuskor Chariot? Probably, like, only 1,000 points, really, just take the one spell. Could take some other things as well if you want to. But, yeah, Distorted Realities also, in a way, a defensive buff, right? Debuffing your opponent's melee attack is very similar, but yeah, you know, your other Lores of Magic, Death, also has kind of a defensive debuff. Soul Blight here, hitting enemies' weapon strength is going to be okay, but physical resistance, because it works against missiles and melee attacks, as long as they're not magical, that is going to be the most kind of universally useful. Then, of course, Lore of Wild, all offensive, and I guess there's the one debuff here. Minus 24 melee attack, maybe situationally if the Preyton's trying to fight something big, that might be a good way to deal with it. If you already have Lore of Wild, let's say for Traderkin, add some damage in single entity engagements, that might be an option as well. Yeah, I mean, Enfeebling Foes, something similar, like a single target debuff if you end up having this lore, but the fact that you can AoE cast Pann's Pelt to be able to hit multiple single entities with it's quite good. And yeah, the Preyton, 1650, it does have both quite a bit of missile resistance and physical resistance, so you really don't need to worry too much about, you know, missiles in general, but even with Pann's Pelt, that goes up to 40%, 80 plus 45 here, you're looking at, what, 85% mitigation against physical missiles, which is, well, a lot. I think it actually caps out at 90% resistance anyway. But, yeah, the melee defense certainly being very low also helps in that way. Yeah, none of your other lords really have defensive buffs in any kind of meaningful way. For Slaanesh, what do you have access to? Let me think about this a little bit. I actually... there's like the Herald ability, which is Locus of Grace. This is something similar. It gives physical resistance and melee defense. No speed component here. But, of course, to take this, you have to take the Herald, which is a tricky lord to make work. Does get access to the Demonic Steed, of course, which is new. But overall, very little defensive stats. Unlike, say, Chaos Sorcerer Lord, who has a lot of armor. On a similar mount, similar speed profile, the Herald is going to be quite a bit more vulnerable. You need to get some armor on the chariots, like the Exalted Seeker Chariot has Perfect Vigor. It's got some stuff going for it here. You can get the Soul Siphon kind of AoE drain, which, you know, you can take on any mount, actually. But even still, I mean, it's quite expensive for what you get, and still pretty vulnerable to getting sniped. I mean, base cost on this thing's not quite 1800, 1600, so granted, you could kit it down a little bit, but still, you're looking at like a realistic kit costing you, especially including Locus of Grace, it's going to cost you, you know, well over 2,000 points to take the Secret Chariot. You could get it right around 2,000 points if you took the Demonic Steed instead, but yeah, overall, that's kind of the clearest, like, defensive buff I can think of that might do something similar to the Preyton. And then the other thing, too, is, like, you know, because it's only around the Herald, you kind of have to keep the Herald, like, underneath the Preytons and try and, you know, take the engagement in places where you want it. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot else you can do to directly buff the defensive stats of the Preyton here, so definitely something to consider, maybe a way to try and make it work a little bit. It seems like, for me at least, the Preyton probably synergizes overall a little bit better with the Beastmen's roster, but you guys let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like and subscribe. Hit that bell notification button every time I upload a new video. You'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.